Hello, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for tuning in to Health Leaders, the place for peer-sourced and solution-focused insights for healthcare executives. My name is G. Hatfield, and I'm the nursing editor at Health Leaders. Today, we are speaking with Jean Putnam, who is the Chief Nurse Executive at Baptist Health South Florida, about workforce challenges in nursing and innovative recruitment and retention strategies that can address those challenges. So, hi, Jean, how are you?
I am great, G. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for taking the time and joining us. So let's jump right in. Obviously, in nursing, we're in a huge workforce shortage, and recruitment and retention is a struggle for nurse leaders across the country. So what are you seeing as some of the biggest hurdles for CNOs who are trying to recruit and retain nurses?
I used to say generational differences, but honestly, at least for us at South Florida, we are 94% of my nursing workforce are Gen Xers and millennials. So the
Mm.
Gen Zers are just coming into the workforce, right? So,
Hmm.
our baby boomers are for the most part gone or retired or not working at the bedside, right?
Hmm.
So, I think it's, although that is still something that's to be there, but it's to really understand that, like, what is that people are needing. And I think our biggest hurdles is to really keep reducing the burden on the direct patient care nurse. I think, there's so much that nurses have, and I think COVID um, it wore us down in a lot of ways, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think we're very resilient, so it's not that, we're not resilient or things like that, but it also helped us understand our profession a little bit more and to say, to beat our chest a little bit, if you will, to say,
Hmm.
pay attention to us, right? We're the largest part of the nursing workforce. And so how do we as individual healthcare systems, hospitals, clinics, whatever that looks like, how do we listen to our first line nurses? And I use the term first line instead of front
Hmm.
line because I think front
Hmm.
line sounds like a war zone.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't want my nurses to think they're in a war zone every day, even though it's very difficult, right? So
Hmm.
I say first line nurses. But regardless, I think our biggest challenge is just to make sure that we are listening to and reducing the burden.
Absolutely. And I love that term, first line nurses. I might steal that from you.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to get an op-ed published on it because I think I want to change that vernacular.
Absolutely, yeah. So I want to touch a little bit on the Gen Z nurses. I'm also a part of Gen Z, so it's personal for me. But how should nurse leaders approach recruiting from the Gen Z pool of nurses? How is that different?
Well, I think part of and what I'm working on a lot is, Gen Zers are our first truly digitally native generation, right? That
Hmm.
technology is important, and I think we have to figure out ways to utilize that in such a way that helps them and utilizes their skill sets in that. So I think technology is definitely one of those, in the use of social media and things like that. But um, they want that flexible scheduling flexibility. And I think, we are still pretty focused on, although there's a lot of folks, including us, that are doing innovative schedules, but, the 12-hour shift, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
you work a day and then you're off for 5 days and you work 2 days and, and trying to get to the point where we're doing things that are, meeting the just the life experiences that the Gen Zers want, right?
Hmm.
And the baby boomers were all about work and things like that. The Gen Zers love work, but they also have other priorities in life. And
Hmm.
how to, right? You say, oh, gee, I think you would say that, right? Is that
Oh, yeah,
work is
absolutely.
work is needs to have purpose, right? Work needs to
Yes,
have
yeah.
purpose.
Hmm.
And what better purpose is there than being a nurse? I say this all the time. I mean, I think it's just one of the greatest professions.
Hmm.
And how can we show our Gen Zers that, right?
Hmm.
And I think we have to individualize things a little bit more for our Gen Zers, right? They have to feel that personalization and how are you taking care of me? How am I
Hmm.
learning? How am I growing? How am I advancing? And what is my purpose? So I think connect to purpose is really important. I don't know. Would you agree? You're as a Gen Zer, G, do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think Gen Z definitely prioritizes work-life balance a lot
Yeah.
more as well than previous generations, and also kind of like ethics and like
Yes.
social justice things as well in the workplace. So yeah, I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. And diversity. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the first generation that is way more diverse than
Hmm.
previous generations, right? And so how do we adapt to that and adopt uh, items that are important to this generation? So, and I love that about this generation, that the diversity is there more than we've
Hmm.
ever had. That's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how can CNOs help mentor nurses become, in the next generation to become the next nurse leaders? Because obviously that's a big part of the recruitment and retention equation.
Yeah, we need to have established programs to help people do that. We need to be better at succession planning. But honestly, the first thing we need to do is that nurse leaders themselves need to make the job more appealing
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of us who are I think overburdened, if you will, as a nurse leader, and we need to look at span of control and what do nurse leaders do. And they work a lot of extra hours in many places. They do a lot of extra things that because they care and they have so much compassion and they care about their nurses and their clinical support folks and everything. But how do you get to a point where you can make that job look more appealing, right? And still
Mm-hmm.
have work-life balance. And I think we're still a little stuck in the you don't have work-life balance if you're a nurse leader.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's what our young nurses see. And
Hmm.
that isn't I mean, who would want to do that, right? Who would want to do that? So I think
Hmm.
we have to, like I said, look at span of control and of course mentoring, professional development, succession planning, development. Like at Baptist Health, we have an amazing professional development and recognition program. We call it PDRP. And we
Hmm.
have a nurse executive academy to train our next CNOs. We have nurse leadership development series where we include everybody from our patient care supervisors up to our AVPs of nursing. So just providing those kinds of things to help people grow and develop and
Hmm.
and offer opportunities, right, to move into those positions.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think this year, especially in talking to CNOs and other nurse leaders, professional development has been like at the forefront, I
Yeah.
think, for a lot of recruitment and retention efforts.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it a little bit earlier about innovative programs for recruitment and
Yeah.
retention. So what are some of those programs, and how do you think health systems should go about providing them?
So I'm really I feel like I'm a nurse entrepreneur, but still in practice setting, right? I'm not
Hmm.
developing new things, but I'm talking about them. And
Hmm.
so technology is just is becoming more appropriate for nurses to be talking about this. So I'm really focusing on what is our virtual care nursing strategy, right? How do we
Hmm.
use virtual nursing? But not just that, how do we use telesitters? And today we have all these things in silos, right? And with different
Yeah.
vendors and things like that. And so, how do we really create a virtual care strategy? And then using technology to reduce that burden, right?
Hmm.
And talking to our first line nurses about what's important to you. So when I talk to our first line nurses, I hear things like, I mean, they love we're in a clinical pilot for voice to text for nursing. We'll be one of the
Mm.
first people in the country to do this, I think, and it's still being developed, but we are part of a pilot that will nurses can do that. How do we use hands-free devices so
Hmm.
nurses can communicate to other members of the care team without having to look up their number or know their name or anything else, right? That I
Hmm.
can say, "Hey Siri, um, call the room for or the nurse for room 10 or the respiratory therapist or the
Hmm.
environmental services person," and we can get to each other faster and better. So
Hmm.
those are the kind of things that I really want us to be innovating on and not be scared by it, right? I mean, it's not perfect yet. We know that
Hmm.
AI isn't perfect. We know that not all the technology is, but instead of being very siloed, I'd like us to think across the span and how we can get to reducing that, lightening the load
Hmm.
for our nurses, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Virtual nursing especially has been, it's surging in popularity for sure, as I
Yeah,
think it
as it should
should.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. So you also mentioned this earlier with social media. What role does social media play in recruitment and retention efforts in 2024?
So I think we're there in a better way for recruitment. Excuse
Hmm.
me, but we're using that, but that's not perfect either, right? Because
Hmm.
then we don't always get back to people like we think we that our systems are doing, and so like people who are trying to hire and so forth. But we need to be able to say, it's not always people who are in person. And, we do a lot of Zoom interviews and we do a lot of things like that. And we post a lot on social media. But is it resonating with people, right? How do we? So
Mm.
it's not just doing it, but are people adopting it? Are people seeing it? What is
Mhm.
our usage on that? What is it that people are really desiring that we're not providing?
Mhm.
So, I just keep trying to put, like I said, put in the hands of our direct patient care nurses and our leaders for that matter,
Mhm.
putting things and tools in there that don't duplicate or overlap, but that are easy to adopt and easy to adapt to. And I think that's what our nurses want. At least that's what I hear from our nurses. They want their opinions to matter. They want their voices to be heard. And
Mhm.
using social media and just technology in general is a really good way to do that. And we're in a great place. I say it's a great time to be a nurse because there's so much of that out there and so much being
Mhm.
developed. We need more nurses to be developing those things. We need
Mhm.
more nurse entrepreneurs, right, who are out there garnering the feedback and having lived that real world experience in nursing, developing those kinds of products.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, to bring it full circle, Gen Z loves social media.
Yeah,
So I think that
yeah.
will help overall, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Jean, for your time.
Welcome.
I'm really grateful to have had this opportunity to hear your insights and get to know you a little better. And thank you so much to our audience for listening.
Thank you, G.
Thank you.